Hey everybody, welcome to Learn Billiards. I'm Eddie Altman, your PBI instructor. You want to put the advantage on your size when you're playing on a 7-foot bar box table? Check this video out for my top 3 tips. Put the odds in your favor. Alright, so here we are at the table and you can see this layout. This video today is going to be on a few pointers on how to test the table out before you play on it. Let's say you go to a local bar or pool hall and you're not familiar with the tables there. You have no idea how true the rails are, if any of the points on the side pockets, if one's sticking out further than the other. So here's a great layout to test this out. You'll be able to judge on these shots which way the table is leaning, if it's leaning at all, or I should say the slate is leaning. So what I did was I set up 3 balls that frozen to the rail and frozen to each other, and I placed them in the obvious positions. Short rail, I have them on the center. Long rail right before the side pocket, and I'm going to shoot this shot in this direction, and it's going to tell me whether or not there's points sticking out and how true this rail is over here. I did the same thing on this side of the table. So all you do, set these up again, make sure they're frozen to the rail and frozen to each other. And you can start anywhere. I'll start down here. You want to take an angle shot. So don't go ahead and take it straight, take it as an angle shot. And let's see how true the rail is. Now you can see that 3 ball went straight in. Let's go ahead and take this one. Now this is a much longer shot. That 6 ball is going to have to pass the side pocket, and we'll see if I can make it in that corner pocket. Now if there's any defect or anything's misaligned, this shot will show that. And the benefit of this is, let's say, you know, obviously you're going to be playing somebody, and you'll automatically know by setting this up and practicing this, just to see, okay, well, I know that this part of the table is leaning outwards, or maybe it's a short rail that's leaning outwards. So you'll have to compensate on that shot. But again, having this knowledge of the table prior to you playing swings the game into your advantage. So here's another shot. You can see that 6 ball went straight in the pocket. So that's telling me that my point's not sticking out any further than the other one. So this one I'm going to take right over here. And we'll check this short rail. That one went right in. So again, having this information is tremendous. This one I'm going to take even from a more severe angle. Let me move these out of the way. So again, I'm going to hit my 4 ball. These 3 balls frozen to the rail. And like I said, I'm trying to see how straight this rail is. And if this point's sticking out any further than the point where the 5 ball is. So let's line up and take this shot. And you can see the 5 ball kept snug to the rail and went straight in. So again, this is exactly what we're looking for. It's giving us instant feedback of the table. I can see how fast the balls are rolling. I can see how true the rails are, and that's very important. Like I said, you know, let's say you had the 8 ball and you had a really long shot down the rail. Let's say this was the shot. Let me get that frozen to the rail, and you're out here. Well, if I know that this rail, by doing that little practice test that I just showed you, if I know that this rail, when I run a ball down, is coming out, I could compensate for that. I could put English on the ball, on the cue ball, to help that 8 ball stay closer to the rail a little bit longer to give me enough time to make it in that pocket. But I know that this rail is true, so I know exactly where to hit it. to make that shot. So again, like I said, this is great feedback, and let's move on to the next one. All right, so here's tip number 2. As you can see, I have 2 cue balls here. Size-wise, they're both 2 1/4 inches, but the difference is the weight. This is from a bar table, which most bar tables either use a magnet inside, which increases the weight by 2 to 3 ounces, or it's an overweight ball. So again, that's how the bar table knows. You ever notice, your object balls will go in, let's say it goes in the side pocket, it'll go through the return and be in that little window slot that you see on the side of the table. And the cue ball winds up at the ball return, the cue ball return at either end of the table, wherever it may be. Well, there's either a magnet in there, so when the cue ball's following the same path through the return, magnet senses it, boom, shifts where the cue ball needs to go. Or it's the weight, and again, that's what determines. I believe Diamond came out with a new bar table. It's extremely expensive. That uses a laser. It has some type of laser sensor, and it recognizes the cue ball so it knows where to send it. All right, so back to this. The advantage of knowing the weight of the cue ball, I'd say the biggest thing is when you're taking, let's say you're taking a stop shot and it's really close to that side pocket or any pocket. Well, I'm using the aramith ball on the shot, which the aramith cue ball and my object ball are the same weight. So I could hit center on this cue ball and it should stop dead right there. So you notice I don't get any rotation going forward. Now if I was to take the same shot with a weighted ball and hit in the center, it's going to rotate anywhere from a half a ball to a full ball length. Depends on the length of travel that cue ball has to go. So let's go ahead and take this shot. Again, if I did this with center, you notice how that cue ball rolled forward a little bit. All right, so the advantage of knowing what type of cue ball you're playing with, again, remember, once you're on a bar table and it's your typical bar, they're gonna have a heavier cue ball, one way or the other, whether it's the magnetic or the overweight ball. It just adds to, again, the extra weight of the ball. So knowing this, you take that into consideration and you say to yourself, okay, well, I know in order to have this cue ball stop right where that 2 ball is, on a shot, let's say 3, 4, 5 feet away, I'm gonna have to hit a little bit below center on my cue ball to compensate for that extra weight. And as you can see, the cue ball stopped dead. So again, I know it sounds, very minute, but that can make the difference of winning or losing. Because let's say that was, just imagine that was our 9 ball, and again, I'm using the heavier cue right here, and I hit center on a long shot. I hit center on the cue ball. All right, so again, the ball's on the ledge. Now this is my cue ball that's the same weight as my object ball. So go ahead, I can hit center on this with a firm hit, and my cue ball is going to stop there. I don't have to worry about, oh my God, is it going to roll in the pocket? And you see that happen a lot on bar tables. So as you can see, you'd have the advantage. Somebody who doesn't realize the difference, let's say they have a table at home, and that, their cue ball is going to be the equal weight of the object ball. Well, instantly you say to yourself, well, I already know that I need to, in order to do that stop shot, I need to hit a little bit lower on the cue ball. Same thing with your draw shot. You're going to have to, increase the length of your stroke, the follow through, and you're going to have to come down lower on that cue ball to have that effect on a bar table when you're using the bar's cue ball. So let's get on to tip number 3. All right, so now we're back at the table. Here's tip number 3. All right, when you're used to playing on a 9-foot table or an 8-foot table, remember, this is a bar box table. When I say that, I mean it's 3.5 wide by 7 feet long. This is the table that most of the leagues are playing on today, you know, APA and so forth. You see the tournaments, they all fly out to Vegas, and you see it on TV all the time or YouTube. One of the big advantages, again, this is all about bar box tables and what you encounter and how to compensate. So the best advice I could give, let's say we're playing 8-ball, I just broke, I have a choice of what I'm going to shoot now. Table's open. I'm focusing on side pockets. All right? The best advice I could give is, in your runouts, try to stay away from side pocket shots. Now I know there's 2 balls an easy shot. They're very tempting, but what happens is it's very easy to get out of position. Remember, a 7-foot table, you have the same amount of balls, they're the same size as playing on an 8 or 9-foot table, so it's much more congestion on the table, more traffic. So you have to finesse the cue ball around all this traffic to get position. Where on an 8 or 9-foot table, there's more square footage on the table itself, the playing surface. So even though the shots might seem a little bit more difficult because you're going to be taking longer shots, more than likely, the side pockets on a 8 or 9-foot table play much larger than on a 7-foot table. I know it sounds strange, look it up, it's a known fact. So what I'm trying to tell you is try to avoid side pocket shots. Like this one's not a problem. I can shoot the 2, get position on the 6, get position on the 4. You know, now what would happen is I'd say, okay, well, how do I get on that 5, the 3, the 7, the 1? So side pocket shots in the long run will get you in more trouble than it's worth. Try to focus on these shots. I mean, if you could take this 13 in the side and the 12 up there, but trying to recover position from side pocket shots that are on an angle, the majority of the time, not all the time, the majority of the time will get you in more trouble. So it'll harm you more than it will help you. So just remember, you basically have it like a 30-degree zone to where that pocket, so if the cue ball's here, I'm okay. That pocket plays full. I'm over here, it plays full. But as I start changing that angle, that pocket gets smaller because of the entrance angle of the object ball. So even though you're standing up here, I see the full pocket. Obviously, it's the same size all the time. It's a matter of how that ball enters that determines the size of the pocket. So again, this is just terminology when I say that the side pocket plays smaller on a 7-foot table. It truly does. Again, there's great literature out there, you know, videos as well, that will break down the details of the side pockets and give you the graphs and diagrams. I'm just trying to explain it to you as simple as possible. Again, focus on your corners. You could run out the whole table much easier focusing on your corner pockets versus your side pockets. Again, a shot like this, yeah, no problem. But now as I start doing something like this, now look what happens. If I try to shoot that 2-ball, my cue ball is going to travel all the way up here. I'm going to have a hard time controlling that cue ball to this little window to get a shot on that 4-ball. So again, shot like this, I'm better off shooting the 6-ball in the corner, and I know I can stick my cue ball roughly where that 6 is to get a shot on that 4-ball that's over here. And then I could bring the cue ball back around. So again, if you really pay attention and you focus on the corner pockets, try to avoid the side pockets at all costs. Again, straight in. Also, when you're playing 8-ball and you're playing on a bar box table, You want to play in sections. This is really, I know this video is going to be 3 tips, but I made it in a quick 4th. Play this section of the table. Break the table in half and say, okay, here's my pattern run for this side of the table. Where do I need to get position on that 3 or that 7 to go ahead and run that side of the table? So if you break it in sections, one of the biggest mistakes you could make is shoot this ball here, shoot the 3 ball down there, then you're going to shoot the 7-1, you have to come all the way up for the 6. You're going back and forth. Again, with the congestion on the table, you increase your odds drastically of running into problems. And it will happen. What good is running 5 or 6 of your balls if you can't run out the table? Because now you just let your opponent have basically an open table. You know, you're going to have 1 or 2 of your balls left, the rest is your opponent's balls, and you just made it much easier on your opponent. So again, if you don't see the run out, try to play a safety.